CTV3 is Jaden, or Jaden Smith's prequel project to his albums Sire and Eris, coming just over a year after the release of the latter album. I have personally had a very mixed relationship with a lot of Jaden Smith music. On the one hand, I feel I have heard flashes of some of his true talent and flashes of originality in Sire and Eris. On the first album, on Sire, songs like Hope, Batman, especially Lost Boy, which I think ended up being like one of my favorite songs of 2017, had me very excited for Jaden Smith's future musical output. And whilst I didn't enjoy the follow-up album Eris as much as I enjoyed Sire, there still are a few songs I regularly return to. But, and it's a very big but, that potential and glimmer of something better and something bigger is bogged down by Jaden's inability to break free of the shackles of the artists that influenced him. Both Sire and Eris had their potential held back by this, and I do think this new album, mixtape, tape, whatever you want to call it, is unfortunately, it's a regression back into that. Now, I do appreciate the narrative that he's trying to follow in this album, taking place in a very wistfully youthful period in his life, serving as kind of, again, a prequel to the other two albums. But I do think that you can write things, whether it's music or fiction or anything, you can write things that take place in an immature mindset very maturely, but I don't think that is what's happened here. So much of this album just sounds like a directionless mishmash of the music Jaden Smith happened to be listening to at the time of recording. The opening track, circa 2015, is, to me, it sounds like Jaden heard Sgt. Pepper once and then just wanted to rap over something vaguely similar to that sound. Everything kind of awkwardly cascades over one another. Every element awkwardly smashes together and it kind of makes it unlistenable. The song Rainbow Bap is a perfect example of how scatterbrained and unfocused I think this album is. The instrumental is cool, it's not bad, it's just kind of serviceable background wallpaper music, but what makes this song so confusing is Jaden's lyrics. Autonomous whipping while whole colonies are poverty stricken. What the fuck is that? That sounds like what a 15-year-old would imagine is a fire bar. And in that respect, he's perfectly encapsulated the mind of a 15-year-old. And at one point in the song, he, for some reason, compares himself to the legendary KRS-One. Muted Sunrise is a song devoid of any personality, emotion, charisma, or anything just to make it not mind-numbingly dull. It's basically like the auditory equivalent of drinking water-flavored water. Now, I have to say that I do appreciate and like it when artists attempt to step out of their comfort zone and try new things and not be characterized by one specific sound. The reason I think that approach doesn't work here is that Jaden has yet to find a lane from which to divert from. You can't step out of your comfort zone if you didn't really have a comfort zone to begin with. Instead of achieving that, to me, this album just sounds like a random mishmash of indie pop, hip hop, R&B aesthetics that kind of just suggest a mood rather than creating a mood. The song Sunburn tries to fit so many sounds into its 3-minute runtime that it just collapses under its own weight. Cabin Fever, again, is a perfect example of what I think is just a random collision of sounds. To me, it sounds like a very awkward amalgamation of My Morning Jacket and Tame Impala with Jaden just singing in this constant monotone voice. When I first heard the second track, Falling For You with Justin Bieber, I did kind of have a visceral gut reaction to it, mainly because of the "if you don't call me, I'll jump off the roof" lyric. I can't lie, I have kind of been revisiting this song. I don't know if it's because it's so absurd and ridiculous, or if it's because I just genuinely fuck with it. But either way, I do find it one of the most interesting things on this entire project. It's like a strange soft rock vibe, vague Beatles influence type thing with Jaden again singing very monotonely over the top. It's very surreal, but I kind of can't help listening to it. Justin Bieber comes through towards the tail end of the song with some very decent vocals as usual, but his lyrics do leave a lot to be desired. I do kind of strangely wish that the entire album was this ridiculous and absurd, just to give it some spice and some original personality to it. The album, of course, is very, very lush. It's very crisp sounding. Obviously, someone like Jaden has access to resources that make his music sound the best that it possibly can. And I think that's what makes this album even more disappointing than if it was just a random person releasing it, is that he has access to these materials that most artists would kill for, and he's basically doing nothing new or original with that. Obviously, it's very, very clear and well documented that Jaden is very, very heavily influenced by people like Kid Cudi and Tyler, the Creator, and those of that specific kind of sound. But I don't think over the course of these 3 albums he has done anything to separate himself or distinguish himself from the people that he just happens to fuck with. And of course, the criticism that's been levied against Jaden for quite a while now is that, 1, a lot of his music is unoriginal, and 2, it's very pretentious. And I don't think a project like this does anything to counteract those criticisms. I think at this point, even though I might not necessarily agree with those criticisms entirely, I can completely understand why someone would make that argument. If I'm just taking the music for what it is very derivative, and I don't think anyone can really argue against that. I do hope with his next project and moving forward that he focuses on simply trying to find his own voice, because he's so young. He's only, I think, 21, 22. He's got basically all the time in the world to try and find that voice, but I just don't think he is really close to finding that yet. Those are my thoughts on the album. Make sure to leave a comment down below. What did you think? Did you fuck with it? Did you not fuck with it? Make sure to like, subscribe, and on the bell. And I will see you next time.